And thank you for joining us in our professional development. We certainly appreciate y'all taking the time to come in and watch and to learn about culturally responsive teaching. I'm Mr. Riggle, and together with Miss Epps.
Hello.
And Miss Kybet. And Miss Wagner.
Hello.
And Miss Northcutt.
Hello.
And lastly, Mr. Cooper as well. Okay. And together we're going to be leading you through what culturally responsive teaching is and how you can implement this mindset into your classroom. But first, Ms. Epps and I are going to quickly explain what A.S.A.P is, who we are, and what we strive to do. So Ms. Epps, you want to take it away?
Hi. Okay. So who are we? In A.S.A.P, A.S.A.P, it's been a long day. We are a group of cohorts that we call ourselves who are advocating to work together to make sure that our African American students are successful. And we're doing that by building those strong relationships with the students as well as their parents, so that we can work together as a team to ensure the success of our African American students. We meet collaboratively to improve our understanding of what it means to be a culturally responsive teacher. And our goal is to have every teacher in school adopt this mindset so that our African American students can feel that school is a welcoming place for them, and hopes and for them to have that feeling will have them be successful in their academic studies as well.
Great. And to explain what culturally responsive teaching is, because at this point you might be like, okay, I've heard this term a lot, maybe you've done some professional development on it, but you never actually got like some tangible results and how you can, what a lesson that employs culturally responsive teaching, what it actually looks like. Luckily, we have the great Miss Kybet here, and she's going to walk us through what culturally responsive teaching is and what it can look like in your classroom.
Okay, hi everybody. So can we go to the next slide, please? So when we're talking about culturally responsive teaching in the classroom, basically what we're going to be looking at is our understanding of culture. When we read the book, we found out that there are 3 layers of culture. There's your surface layer, which everybody can see, which is the way you dress, the foods that you eat. It's the easy stuff that's right on top. So that's your surface culture. Your shallow culture are unspoken truths about your level of social interaction within your cultural norms, things like that. So your attitudes toward elders, your concepts of time and space or personal space. So for instance, in the South, we're used to having a lot of space, and when somebody gets too close to you, we usually have to give them the side eye. In the North, people are used to being a lot closer together, so standing next to somebody in the North, especially like New York, would be no big deal. Whereas in the South, that might cause issues with other people. And the last type of culture is your deep culture. These are things that are super, super deep. They're like your views on good and bad, your spirituality, and those are kind of those deep-seated things. When I'm trying to teach in a culturally responsive way in the classroom, I try to kind of focus more on the shallow and the deep culture, because those are things that we can find a lot of commonality in for the different cultures. Can you go to the next slide, please? So, for example, I'm going to show you a lesson of what I did in class recently. These were the teaks that I focused on. This project that we're working on was masks. And not only did we have to understand cultural differences from the teaks, we have to apply the art making process. And there's also a historical and heritage teak that we went along with that. So can you go to the next slide? All right, so the objective was for the students to use their art vocabulary and what they knew about art to create a mask. And what I did was, instead of just focusing on one type of mask, We looked at Wayne Wyeth, who is actually the artist who did all of the work for Pee-wee's Playhouse. He's pretty cool. We looked at Kabuki mask from Japan, Venetian and Mardi Gras mask, African mask, and indigenous American people's mask. So even though these are very different cultures and we were looking at different time periods and things like that, there are a lot of things that the kids were able to see similarities in, and not only how the masks were used, the function of the masks, whether it was, you know, artistic or if it had an actual function. And also like similarities in the way that they looked. So you can go to the next one, please. So I have an image here. This is Wayne Wyeth, who's the first person. Of course, an African mask is next, a Venetian mask, and the Kabuki mask is the last one that, that I have up there. So we were able as a class to look at these and do a lot of compare and contrast. And it was really cool for the kids to see all of the similarities when they expected things to be so different. There are also a lot of these really big picture underlying similarities. And bringing in all of these different cultures and all of these options was really good for the kids, because I know that we're focusing on our African American students, but this is going to be good for all of our students when we point these things out. Next slide. Right. So this is what I was telling you, that they were able to choose after we did our investigation. The kids were able to do a little bit more investigating on their own. So we had this is another way of bringing cultural understanding, is also allowing the kids different ways of learning. So they got to look by themselves. We talked about it as a class and discussed it as a class, and then they were able to kind of work either independently or by themselves as they were building these things. And we would check each other's progress and kind of go back and forth, and it gave them different opportunities for learning, which is also something that we need to think about when we think about different cultures. Okay, and the last one. And this is student work. This is an example of student work. So they got to choose what they were influenced by, and this became really cool because some of the cultures that you see, I didn't show them. They got interested and wanted to look at other things as well. Or like I didn't have any examples of South Asian masks, and this particular student who did the elephant was Hindi. And she wanted to bring some of her culture into her mask as well, and I let her do that. So that was a lot of fun. And the next slide is some of the pieces that are in the hallway right now from this year. So, and you can see the different influences that they had. And the last slide, I think, is that it? That's it. Okay, so yeah, so for me, I really like to focus on those big, deeper understandings and the differences of our culture, so that those surface level things kind of, they're just bells and whistles. They're just interesting little things to learn from. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kybet. It's great seeing the amazing things that our students can do, and when you give them that liberty to choose, is a game changer, because they never cease to amaze you and surprise you with what they can do when you give them a chance. So thank you once again, Ms. Kybet. So now I'm going to toss it over to Ms. Wagner and Ms. Northcutt to share some strategies and the importance of making kids feel safe in your classroom.
All right, hi everybody, Ms. Northcutt. So as Ms. Kybet mentioned, we are doing a book study. The book is Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain by Zaretta Hammond. And so she talks about kind of the physical aspect of it and the physiological side of learning and teaching. So in one chapter, she talks about the importance of a safe learning environment. And so there's a scientific physical aspect behind that. We talk about a safe learning environment, but what does that mean? Well, when students are sitting in class, and if they sense a hostile or even just an unwelcoming environment or an interaction, then their body goes into distress mode. And so it sends signals to the brain saying, hey, we're in danger, there's a threat. And so the brain stops releasing that oxytocin, it starts producing anxiety, and you move into that fight or flight response. And so once that happens, all learning stops, right? Because their body is not in a safe space to learn, to take things in long term. They've moved on to the base level of needing to feel safe in that environment. And we see a lot of times with marginalized communities that they are already kind of queued up to be ready for that kind of response just based on past experiences. And so it's really important for us to make sure that doesn't happen and that they feel safe, they feel welcome, they feel valued in our classroom. So there's a physiological response to that happening. And so Ms. Wagner is going to take it away to the more emotional side of it.
Okay, hello, I'm Ms. Wagner. This quote on the slide is something that I think probably spoke to me the most from the book. So it says, it is not enough to have a classroom free of psychological and social threats. The brain needs to be a part of a caring social community to maximize its sense of well-being. Marginalized students need to feel affirmed and included as valued members of a learning community. I think as educators, we get a lot of emphasis put on us to have that learning environment, right? That's even a part of our T-test. What's your learning environment like? And I think the focus tends to be on academics, right? How is that student learning? Do they feel safe participating? But as Northcutt pointed out, our students have these stressors, right? Your brain sends off signals, and if they don't feel safe, they're not going to learn. So it's not just creating a space for your students to feel safe as learners. First and foremost, those students need to feel safe as a human being in your classroom. And I think that's something that, you know, when I read that, I was like, oh, I do that. Like, I'm good at that. But A.S.A.P has kind of made me reflect on if I'm actually always making students feel safe in all aspects in my classroom as people, right? I think sometimes we forget they're not just our students, they are individuals. And especially, you know, they're hormonal teenager individuals who have lots of stressors going on. An example of, in my classroom, how I've kind of taken a step back and recognized, okay, human being first, not student first. Right now, you know, we have students at home that it is very hard to connect to them. I actually have a student who I hadn't seen in about 2 weeks. And so this is a student too that I know not only can they turn work in, not only are they capable of doing the assignment, they're capable of doing the assignment really well. And so my gut instinct, all part of me, wanted to send an email that was like, why are you missing assignments? You need to do this and this and this. But because of this book study, I kind of took a step back, and all I said was, I really miss you in class. I hope you're doing okay. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. And that was it, right? I bit my tongue and I left it at that. And he didn't respond, but he showed up to class the next day and he participated in class the next day. And so I sent another email, you know, it's so good to see you, period, left at that. I didn't say anything about assignments or academics, just letting him know that I was happy he was there. And then he showed up in class again. So this student who hadn't been there in 2 weeks showed up 2 classes in a row. And he took a test. Now he's passing my class. And so just focusing, taking that breath, focusing on making him know he was welcome, he's loved in my classroom, and I was happy to see him. That kind of took care of the academic part anyway, right? I didn't really have to focus on that. I just focused on him as a human being. So that's what I've really appreciated about A.S.A.P. It gives you that opportunity to challenge yourself as an educator, to talk to other educators who are different than you so that you can see, okay, these are stressors that I might not have realized. I don't want to push on those stressors for students just because I didn't think about it. So A.S.A.P. has kind of challenged me to reflect on that in my own classroom so I can create that safe learning environment.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Wagner. And Miss Norcutt. That was amazing. Thank you. So our next slide right here in our presentation is, as Miss Wagner was pointing out, like A.S.A.P is a lot about learning and reflection and growing as educators together in a collaborative environment. So one way we do this is we do lots of jam boards in here. So obviously I'm not going to read all these out because we're all educators and have college degrees we can all read. So if you want to take a moment to pause this presentation, just click that pause button and you can read these. There's a lot of good stuff in here about what our A.S.A.P team members have learned and what we have reflected upon and what we are successfully implementing in our classrooms to make school more inviting and more welcoming for African American students. Great, and so now I'm going to show a video by our newest team member. And so she didn't join right away, but she saw what we were doing and she was like, I want to be a part of that. As we say, it's never too late to join. And so she made an awesome video about why she joined and why she wanted to join A.S.A.P. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share a different tab with you guys so you can see the full version. And we have the wonderful Coach Matthew with us.
Hello, educators. My name is Jamie Matthew, and I'm a teacher at the Classical Center at Brandenburg Middle School. I joined the African American Student Achievement Plan, also known as A.S.A.P, because I wanted to be part of an academic community with like-minded professionals that are solution-driven and passionate about listening, learning, advocating, adapting, connecting, and supporting underrepresented students. 2020 has shown us so many things, but one thing for sure it's shown is that there's a need for a program like this. It's also reaffirmed my commitment to be a voice for my students in my classroom, in these hallways, in my school, and beyond. All of our students have so much promise and potential, and I know that if we don't capture their hearts ASAP, especially during these formative years, we're doing them a disservice. I'm excited to collaborate with my colleagues as we elevate our craft and stir up the gift that lives within each one of our students.
Love that video. It's so inspiring. So thank you, Coach Matthew from afar. Lastly, I'm going to hand it over to our big idea man and our founder, Mr. Cooper. And
hello, educators.
There we go. And he is going to give you all a call to action, what you can do, and if you're interested, what you can do to promote culturally responsive teaching in your classroom and in this school.
Hope all is well. Hope everybody's doing okay. When it comes to A.S.A.P, there's a certain sentiment that we all agree upon, pretty much saying that we know that there's an achievement gap. We automatically know that, and we get tired of hearing it at times, and we want to know how to fix it. If you notice on the Jamboard, a good response is that cultural responsive teaching really isn't trying to come up with a strategy. It's really trying to reflect and find the interest and the intent on student achievement and things like that. Here's the reality, though, as well. Students, they enter into the building, they enter to your classrooms on Google Meets and everything at different levels of preparation. And they receive different types of counseling from different people. And what we're looking at is how we can come together collaboratively, as an A.S.A.P cohort, and seeing how can we increase this student achievement? How can we have a better student outcome collectively? This, as you can see with all the other teachers in their testimonials, is increasing this teacher collective efficacy. And this efficacy is knowing that we can make an impact and we can knowingly make a difference for the students. And that's what A.S.A.P is really all about. It's a focus group on looking at how can we bring up that African American achievement at the same time. So we would love for you to come in. We're honored and we're excited when we get new members, and this is one of the calls to actions that the cohorts have, you know, and the coordinators. We also recruit, so it's never a time that we're going to say no. It's a time where we'll always welcome anybody that wants to make an impact and learn as well within the cohort.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. So that about wraps up our professional development. We hope you enjoyed and you learned something. You got some key takeaways that you can use and maybe help rethink your mindset, or just employ one or two things in your classroom to really help make a difference for African American students. And if you have any questions, you can ask one of us. And if you're like, I want to be a part of that, reach out to any members on the list, and we will be more than happy to help you out. Thank you so much, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.